stay tuned because for the next 60 minutes, Motorsports Unlimited is on the air. Hi, I'm Jerry Bryant, and these are the lovely ladies of motorsports. And all this hour, we're going to have 60 minutes of action-packed excitement. All kinds of exciting things will happen. And we got the famous Bill Wildt, and we got all kinds of other good stuff that's happening all this hour. Motorsports Unlimited, 60 minutes of non-stop action. So let's go to the studio right now, huh?
Thanks, Jerry, and hi, everybody. Welcome to the studio headquarters of Chicagoland's most watched, most talked about Access television series. I'm Samantha Bentley, and this is the 998th edition of Motorsports Unlimited. Today, we're taking you to the Lansing Municipal Airport in Lansing, Illinois for the annual Pancake Breakfast, hosted by Chapter 260 of the Experimental Aircraft Association. As always, there were great aircraft to enjoy and free airplane rides for the kids, but 2006 was special. Lansing Airport is the home of the last remaining Ford hangar, built some 80 years ago by Henry Ford. The folks at Lansing Airport decided to celebrate this historic facility's birthday by including a display of Model A and T automobiles and honoring the Ford Tri-Motor aircraft for which the hangar was built. We have a lot to cover, so let's join Bill as he checks out the pancake part of the event.
I think our regular reviewers are going to remember that this is an event that we have covered 2 or 3 times in the past, and it is always a pleasure. I've said so many times that we do not do nearly enough with sport aviation on Motorsports Unlimited. It's a very important part of the motorsport community, and all the stuff they do is the stuff that we do. They build things out of composites, we build things out of composites. They build things out of aluminum, we build things out of aluminum. The one thing they do that we don't do a lot of is they build things out of wood and canvas. And it's sort of a forgotten art and something we should be looking at, because I think the boating community has learned when it comes to a great ride in a boat, nothing beats a wood boat because it has memory, super strength, and all the rest of it. We may be overlooking some things that we can do with that. In any event, that's a subject for another time. First of all, you are?
Glenn Leshek, EA Chapter 260.
Glenn, what are we doing here today?
We're having a pancake breakfast. This is to support our activities throughout the year.
And Chuck, if you would, while we're talking, maybe take your shot down there a little bit. You can see the kids, looks like the end of the line down there.
Yes. We've got quite an array of things going on here. When you take a look at the, we're Experimental Aircraft Association.
Of course, yes.
We build things. If you notice, you may get a chance to see it later on, we have a big round rotating grill. That was built by the chapter members. That's just an idea of some of the things we do. I mean, everything is along those lines.
There's no question about it. People in the motorsport community, we build things. Doesn't make any difference if they're doing top fuel dragsters, they're doing NASCAR cars.
That's right.
They build their toolboxes and all the rest of it too.
Yes.
Okay, you guys do this every year. Is it the same time every year?
It's generally the same time every year. This year we did it 1 week later because we actually put it in conjunction with some events that are going on here, the 80th anniversary of the historic Ford hangar here.
Right, that's what we're going to be focusing on. This is pretty cool, and it's also very, very frustrating for me, folks, that I really don't know what to show you because there is so much here. Yes, the pancake breakfast is sort of the bed of this thing, and they have a fly-in and associated with that, correct?
Yes.
All right, and a lot of great planes on display. We've got that going also, but it's very, very special this year because this is the 80th anniversary of the Ford hangar. I'm not going to try to explain what that means right now. We're going to go out and look at it, but in addition to being the 80th anniversary of the Ford hangar, supposedly, and I don't know if this is going to happen because the weather is deteriorated, going to have a Ford Tri-Motor here.
That's what we're expecting. We're expecting a Ford Tri-Motor come up for about an hour or so, and then we also have a Yonkers Tri-Motor out here as well, which was inspired by the Ford Tri-Motor.
Right, and it's all very, very important, and go right ahead, folks, that's fine. It's all that's what happens all the time. As a matter of fact, Chuck, broaden your shot so people can see. We've got a full house here happily, right?
Yes, in fact, we've got setups over at the other hangar right now, too, for overflow.
Well, I think that's just great. So there's a lot to cover here today. Anything else you want to tell the folks before we get underway?
We have this event in June, and then we also do it in September as well.
That's right. It is spring and fall, and they can go on to the Lansing Airport website and get the information.
Well, actually, EAA260.org is our website.
EAA260.org. And again, we don't do nearly. Is there something else?
No, really, that's about it.
We don't do nearly enough on sport aviation, so this show is always a pleasure for me. I wish we were down here taping 3 or 4 shows. They've got so many great airplanes out there, but I'm going to give you a taste, and not only that, we've got Model Ts and Model As too. I told you, Ford hangar birthday.
If I understand correctly, we're going to check out airplanes, cars, and a building on today's show. We've got a lot on our plate. Hi, I'm Patty Borwitz. Let's get started by checking out the birthday boy, the historic Ford hangar, 80 years young today.
Well, I suppose what you are looking at is the birthday boy or birthday girl, whichever the case. I'm not sure how that would have worked back when this thing was built. And what I'm talking about is I'm talking about the Ford hangar, and this is the 80th anniversary of this hangar. And as I understand it, it has some very important historical perspective, and that at one time there were 3 of these, and it was built at a time when Henry Ford wanted to be able to fly to all of his various assembly plant. Help us.
That's correct. Henry Ford in the 20s wanted to use aviation to help develop his growing automobile business. And he had a hangar at Lansing, one at Dearborn, Michigan, and one in Cleveland. Those are no longer in existence. This one is.
And the reason for those placements was that's where he had assembly plants or manufacturing plants?
That's correct. We have one on 130th and Torrance, still operational. Henry Ford lost a little interest in this concept of his probably in the early 30s.
First of all, tell us who you are.
My name is Bob Malkus. I'm the airport manager.
Okay, so you can probably best tell me then, in addition to that being historically significant as far as in the world of automobiles and all that, it was also architecturally interesting at the time.
It was. It was, we have cantilever construction, something that was relatively new at that time. As Ford said, he'd like to have God's light come in and light the hangar instead of electricity because that costs too much. So there are 2,200 paint glass windows in the hangar. It has segmented doors, not bifold doors, segmented doors that will open and close much easier than they had the big ones. That would just take the whole section to pull it shut.
So in addition to this being the birthday of the hangar, which of course is very, very important, and because the auto industry is so important in America, you guys put together, and I don't know if that was your doing or what, you said, let's really make a celebration out of this and see if we can get a Ford tri-motor in here. Tell the folks what a Ford tri-motor is.
A Ford tri-motor is a aircraft that was a number of editions. The first one was an AT1. I don't even know if there are any more of those. It was something that Ford tried to fund, tried to develop. They did do well for, I think, 99 of them. That's how many they made. And there's only very few that are flying in and out of the country now.
As a matter of fact, most consider it a very important contribution to aviation because in a way it sort of introduced reliable passenger transportation.
That's correct.
Okay, so now we are hoping, because the weather has kind of turned on us a little bit here today, but it's supposed to be here for about an hour or so, about 11 o'clock?
Yeah, that's the plan. Try to get here between 11 and 1 o'clock, but he said he'd try to get here at 11. They're coming in from Minnesota, so that becomes a little marginal. Okay,
and we're watching for him because they'd love to put that airplane on the air. It really is an important piece of history, but that's not all that they did down here. Chuck, broaden your shot. Swing it down here, show the audience the cars that we've got here. It looks like we've got a field of Model A's and Model T's.
Yeah, we wanted to make this somewhat of a Ford celebration.
Well, you did it. I got to use it, my friend. You did it.
We have the Ford hangar. We have Ford Model A cars here from the Joliet Restorers Club. And with the Ford tri-motor, it would be the crowning achievement. We didn't have time to try to get Ford to bring some of its, let's say, new conceptual cars, because that would be the greatest juxtaposition you could find. Show the Model A and then show some of the more current 2007, 6, 7 type of cars that are being developed now. Well, just didn't have time to do it.
I think what you're doing is pretty cool, just the way it is. And by the way, Chuck, if you broaden your shot and come over here, these guys have taken a page off of you. If the audience just heard the aircraft engine was running before, that's part of the Young Eagles Flying Program. And the Young Eagles Flying Program is one of these things that they put together. The Experimental Aircraft Association does this, where they want to get youngsters to give them a free plane ride, get them familiar with airplanes, not to be afraid, and all that sort of thing, which is part of what they do here at this Pancake Breakfast every year. And that was just a pilot taking off with a group of children for the Young Eagles program. Well, these guys are doing the same thing. They've got, just step aside for a moment, they've got free Model A rides. So we've got a car sitting right here, and I will tell you something. I'll tell you a little quick story. I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk her into going on the air, that Chuck and I got lost on the way down here and ended up in Crete, Illinois, and I saw this Model A with a woman driving. I said, I'll bet she's on the way to Lansing Airport, and I pulled over and asked her, and she says, yes, I says, I'll follow you. Pretty cool. She came a long way by herself, so hopefully I can get her on the air. I think it's pretty cool. And in any event, in addition to all of that, the Model A's, the Model T's, I don't know, did you say Model T's? I see one right there. Well, you got a T right there, the red one.
Okay.
So we've got Model A's and we've got Model T's, and hopefully we're going to have the Ford Tri-Motor.
Yep.
But in addition to all of that, great planes on the fly-in.
Oh yeah,
Which to me is like the most important part.
I agree. There are the whole flight line is loaded with airplanes right now. They're coming and going. Bill was looking for me a little bit ago. I'm parking cars in the every place we can try to put them because everybody's coming to see this. We got a few airplanes from Gary that came by, another Tri-Motor, but it's not a Ford Tri-Motor, and they made a little noise in Lansing as they flew by at 7 o'clock. And got everybody excited about coming out to the airport and seeing what we have here. This is a community day for the airport.
Well, this is great, and I think it's a real feather in the cap of the town of Lansing. And as a matter of fact, this isn't the only feather in the cap, because we're going to talk to a lady shortly that I understand has something to do with, and I don't want to give this away, with you've got a bunch of Ford Tri-Motors in Lansing.
That's correct.
Okay, don't give it away.
We're not going to say any more, but let Patty tell you the whole story. It's an exciting thing, something that no one has ever done. We're getting this information to everybody across the country. Brochures about our project is being in California right now, downstate Illinois, numerous other places that now are interested and are going to come in and take a look at what this is all about.
And as we speak, I don't know if the audience can hear it in the background, the Model A's just keep rolling in and rolling in, all being driven here. So we've got to get underway. I want to get to the airplanes, trust me, but I want you to know that we are at the Lansing Airport in Lansing, Illinois for the 80th anniversary. Chuck, pull your camera shot back so the audience can see it. The 80th anniversary of the Ford hangar, a very important piece of history right here in Lansing, Illinois.
We think it's pretty cool the town of Lansing has gotten into the spirit of celebrating the fact that they have the last remaining Ford hangar built by Henry Ford. Hi, I'm Janine Lauschat, and before we get started with the festivities, Bill and Chuck wanted to take a moment to thank a special person and check out her Model A.
Well, of course, I have to take a moment to thank this lady, because if it wasn't for her, Chuck and I might not be here today. Who are you?
I'm Karen Kalenda.
And where are you from, Karen?
I'm from Crete, where you were lost.
Where I was lost. Tell me about your car.
My car is a 1931 Model A, and I love to drive it. It's a little hard to turn, and once in a while we stop at the stop signs and it doesn't start again, but I love it. It's fun. We go on Model A trips with the A's R Us group, and we are driving the Dixie next weekend, Dixie Dash, Dixie Highway from Blue Island all the way to Momence.
Well, I will tell you something. I must say that one of the things that was very impressive about this is this woman actually does drive this thing. Crete is quite a ways from here.
It's about 25 minutes.
Yeah, about 25 minutes, and I kept looking around to see if, typically if you see a woman in a car activity, there's going to be another car following with the husband with another car. She was all by herself, just kind of toddling down the road, and I will tell you something, folks, you cannot believe how tire technology has changed. I kept staring at the wheels of this thing as we were following her. Oh, yes. I kept staring at the wheels. Motorcycles have wider tires these days.
Yeah, they're very thin,
they're
thin.
Very, very
thin. Thin.
But I'll tell you something, it looks like you were having fun in the car. It looks like you enjoy it.
It was fun. I just love to drive it.
Can you characterize that for me? On Motorsports Unlimited, we try as hard as we can to get the public, the general public that doesn't understand why we get into these, get them to understand what does it do to you or for you when you drive it.
Well, it just feels like it's very nostalgic, and it feels like I'm back in the 40s,
Bingo,
the 30s.
Takes you to another place, doesn't it?
It's wonderful. I love it.
Boy, you understand it completely. Well, and once again, Chuck and I thank you so much, or we might have never and it's not that hard to find it. It's we're from the Chicago area, so coming down 294, get on 394 South, should have been able to drive right here. Somehow I missed something, didn't get it done. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bill, it's even easier to get there if you take Torrance South off of 294 instead of 394. You made it difficult. Now let's take a moment to see what Lansing is doing to celebrate the Ford Tri-Motor airplane.
Some things as I look around in our society I find encouraging. One of the things is that when we as a people do things that are just a little bit silly and we do it just for the fun of it, that encourages me about our society, that everything isn't about chasing the almighty buck, that sometimes we do things that are frivolous and everything just for the fun of it. And I will remind you that Chicago did this years ago when they had all the fiberglass cows downtown painted in all different kinds of ways. Last year we were in Crown Point, Indiana. We took the time to take pictures of many of the bulldogs that they had, fiberglass bulldogs that they had through the whole town. I thought it was so cool. Well, guess what? I checked the Lansing Airport website, and these guys are doing Tri-Motors.
Tri-motors indeed, Bill.
I think it's very cool. First of all, you are.
I'm Patty Item, Lansing Village Trustee and Vice President of our Historical Society.
Okay, what provoked you to do the tri-motor, the fiberglass tri-motors?
Actually, our friend Bob Malkus is the core of the story. Bob's always involved. When Mayor Jan Podgorski appointed me as airport commissioner 5 years ago, Bob began to teach me about the history of the airport, and I became not only enthused, but just absolutely thrilled with it. I found that Mr. Henry Ford built our historic Ford hangar 80 years ago, and as I realized that this was the 80th anniversary, I wanted to bring the Historical Society, the airport, and the village together for a project, and a public art project seemed to be the way to do it. And as I did some research, I realized that Henry Ford's plan for this area was to manufacture his tri-motors right here. That plan never happened because the Depression took place, but he did build 199 of his tri-motors, and they flew in and out of Lansing for several years. So we made the tri-motor, the Ford tri-motor, the symbol of our public art project.
And it's one of those things I guess we could properly say, and we're going to get blown away here because an airplane just started up. It's one of those things that we could properly say we do just for the fun of it.
We did it just for the fun of it, and it's a tremendous success. It's going to be a lot of fun in Lansing here this summer with our 55 miniature tri-motors.
55 of them spread through, what is it, in the downtown area?
In the downtown area and on Torrance Avenue. There are actually a couple across the state line in Munster.
So this is something people should come. It's going to be all summer then, not just for today.
Summer.
Okay, so it's all summer. Well, listen, I think that's just terrific. I got such a kick out of it. Like I say, and a few days ago I was in, I believe it was Naperville, and it looks like they're doing the fiberglass dinosaurs all painted differently. I like this. You cannot help but smile when you look at these things. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with us, because I promise you, we are going to get to the airplanes. I promise.
It's wonderful when community leaders have the vision, wisdom, and determination to partner up with the motorsport community to advance the interests of both. Now let's check out one of the aircraft on display that looks very much like the Ford tri-motor we await.
This is not the Ford tri-motor that we're waiting for, but it's a plane that in my mind is very similar to the Ford tri-motor, and if I am not mistaken, I believe was larger than the Ford tri-motor. It doesn't make any difference what I think though, because we got a guy here that knows all about it and flew it in today as I understand it, and you are.
Yes, hi Bill, I'm Jim Rossiter, and I'm a member of the Commemorative Air Force, the Great Lakes Wing, and we have this airplane, the Junkers Ju-52, along with the C-47, the Douglas C-47.
Which I would probably call a DC-3 because I worked for United Airlines for 18 years.
Exactly right. And I happen to work for United also.
Really? How long?
34 years.
Okay, so we both have a soft spot in our heart for United Airlines.
We really do.
Great company. I enjoyed all the time I spent there. Now, I said a little larger than the Ford tri-motor. Yes or no, or am I wrong?
You're absolutely correct. About twice as large, as a matter of fact. And you're right, many people do confuse this airplane with the Ford tri-motor.
Because it's corrugated and has 3 motors.
Corrugated and 3 motors, but if you look closer, you'll see that this is a low-wing airplane, where the Ford tri-motor, a high-wing.
Should have noticed it right off the bat. You're exactly correct. How about performance, speed, cruise speed and all that, and altitude capability?
Just a little more than the Ford tri-motor, but very close. One of the things you'll notice...
What is it? What is the cruise speed on this?
At 125 miles per hour.
Okay, and how about the ceiling?
Ceiling, well, we normally don't take it above 10,000 because of oxygen, but we could go up to 17 or 18 if we had
the
oxygen.
engines are running for
Sure.
Okay,
sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. I just want to make sure I didn't lose my train there.
Oh, no. One of the things about the Ford tri-motor and this airplane, they both evolved from models in the mid-20s. And at that time, the corrugation was for strength, but along with the strength came a lot of drag
and
weight, and it kept the speed down. The Ford tri-motor is 12,000, 13,000 pounds, whereas this airplane is 26,000 pounds, maximum gross takeoff weight.
Presumably the corrugation of the, and Chuck, maybe you can show the audience that if you haven't seen it, we're talking about the corrugation under the wings, on the sides of the fuselage and all that. Presumably as metallurgy got better, we could get the same strength without putting all the corrugations in there for stiffening purposes, and that would lighten the aircraft?
You're exactly right, Bill, and that's what corrugate, just like a cardboard box. It's stronger than just a plain piece of paper.
Right, so there were technical reasons why they looked like this, and then technical reasons why they stopped looking like this.
They stopped very quickly because there was so much drag or resistance to increasing the speed that they just couldn't do it.
Right, and what he's talking about there, our NASCAR fans will certainly appreciate this, is that when you corrugate those panels, you add considerable surface area, and the more surface area, the air has to flow over, the greater drag.
Greater drag, and very strong airplane though, but
and rugged,
drag.
Very rugged airplane.
Very
Where was it
rugged
built?
Airplane. This particular one, the Spanish built a number of these for the Germans. This one was built in Spain, but they started being built in Germany. France built a few, and maybe Poland.
Because if I recall correctly, Junkers was a German designer?
German designer, and a very successful and a very innovative designer.
Now you get to fly this thing, as I understand it. Just give me a few lines about the organization that you mentioned earlier when we started the interview. The what Air Force?
Sure, it's the Commemorative Air Force, and it is a worldwide museum of old airplanes, and our goal is just keep these planes flying, take them to air shows like we're doing now, and try to raise money and keep the airplanes in flying conditions rather than in a static or a non-flying museum.
Certainly worthwhile, and a youngster looking at this could just the things that I just talked about, corrugation versus non-corrugation, drag, strength, rigidity, and all that is stuff we shouldn't have to learn over again if we can remember we learned it before.
That's for sure.
Okay, well listen, I want to thank you for spending a little bit of time. Is there anything that I haven't mentioned about the aircraft that you think the audience should know that's important?
Well, one thing, there are only 6, maybe 7 now. Another one is being restored in the world. This one is the only flying model in the Western Hemisphere. So
and you get to fly it.
I get to fly it, and it's an honor and a privilege, and I love it.
And hopefully it's fun.
It is so much fun, I just couldn't explain it.
You know what, I'm going to tell you something. It reminds me when I used to talk to the United Airlines. Chuck, you can pull your camera shot back so the audience can see the aircraft and us again. He reminds me a great deal of the United Airlines captains I used to talk to when I was there. I will tell you one thing about these guys, to a man. They loved their work and their flying.
Very cool airplane. It looks like some of the aircraft I see in very old movies. Hard to believe it's still flying. Next, we move ahead a couple of decades to look at an airplane that is historically significant and, in some areas of the world, still in service.
I absolutely love coming to these sport aviation events. And Chuck, as you pull your camera shot back, you're looking at what I would call a DC-3, what he's going to call a C-47, and correct me, and we'll explain all that difference in that. But we're standing right here next to this one. Chuck, take your camera shot that way, and I want you to show the audience one of my favorite aircraft designers' work, Burt Rutan. I think he's just a brilliant guy with that composite that's either a long easy or very easy down there. That is probably the statement of the highest tech aircraft designs around right now. Pull your camera shot back and come back, and we go past one of the airplanes I could have bought 40 years ago for about $1,500, and now they go for $250,000. I believe that to be a Texan. And keep coming with your shot, Chuck, because we've got an absolutely gorgeous Mustang replica, and then come all the way back here because we got the historically important DC-3 C-47, which played a very important part of our history. This, in my opinion, was really the first of passenger planes, although this one I believe is a cargo version, and I've gone long enough without introducing you, and you are.
I am Colonel Bob Boss with the Commemorative Air Force Great Lakes Wing, and the aircraft that you're viewing right behind you right now is an exact replica of the aircraft that led the Normandy invasion of 302nd Airborne Squadron of the 82nd Airborne Division. And the C-47 is actually a DC-3. It was patterned after the DC-3 of 1935. During the war, they built 11,000 of these to actually carry paratroopers, supplies, ambulatory, or anything that was necessary. Eisenhower said that the C-47 was one of the 4 instruments of the war that actually won the war. And without the C-47, we never would have probably won the war. That's how important this aircraft was. If you look at the airplane behind us, the nose art that's on there, it shows a glass with a sparrow. The actual captain that had flown this airplane during the war was called the Black Sparrow as a child. So when he put his nose art on here, he thought it was pretty appropriate to put his Black Sparrow on that glass that you see there.
So I am correct in the C-47 was really a cargo version of the DC-3?
That's correct. The DC-3 was a historic airplane. It was the first very successful transport aircraft. They built about 280 of them in the early 30s and 40s, and was the primary aircraft for air transportation in this country at the time.
Very important. Wasn't that the one they used over the hump?
Yes. Matter of fact, the first aircraft to be flown over the hump in Burma, China theater was the C-47, followed by the Curtiss Commando C-46. But no matter where you go today in the world, you'll still find this historic aircraft. There's about 1,500 DC-3s in the world today and about 530 registered within the United States.
Many still working.
Oh yes. Now this aircraft is all painted up in the Normandy invasion colors, as you probably can see to some degree back here, olive drab with the black and white stripes. And we take this aircraft literally all over the country to try and promote the legacy of World War II. Actually, we're promoting the legacy of all the wars at this time. But the C-47 was used not only in World War II, but also during the Korean War, and I happen to be a Korean veteran. I had the honor of being the lead aircraft in the Korean War Memorial flyby in Washington in 2000 with this airplane.
You must have been very proud.
Yeah, definitely so.
Well, it is so important. It is important, obviously, from a historical standpoint of where our nation has come from and how it got here, but this is Motorsports Unlimited. This is a technically historic piece of equipment. I kind of view it, and you can correct me because you're the expert, my view of the Ford Tri-Motor was kind of the first, I'm going to say successful for the period, passenger carrier. And the DC-3 was the first slick, let's do an airline kind of, do I have it about right?
Yeah, there's the first what we call cantilever designed aircraft with the monocoque type construction. Whereas the Ford Tri-Motor still had the corrugation, and it had all the struts and
the frame inside.
Sure. Yeah, and whereas the DC-3 eliminated all of that, and Lindbergh actually had a lot to do with designing this aircraft.
Really, I did not know that.
Right, TWA was the one that originally was looking for an airplane that could fly over the mountain areas down in the southern part of the country, going out to the coast, and they had to have an aircraft that was going to be able to fly on one engine in case the engine quit. But Lindbergh got involved with to some degree as far as the actual, I wouldn't say the design, but performance and how to run the aircraft. The gentleman who designed this airplane, interestingly enough, his name was Raymond. He lived to be within 1 day shy of 100 years old. If you take a look at the nose of the DC-3, and you look at the DC-4, the DC-6, the DC-8, the nose of all those airplanes have a similar,
yes, they do,
comparable design. The DC-3, even though it's as old as it is, still is a slick-looking airplane.
It really is. And Chuck, if you pull your camera shot back, and once again, I just love going to these sport aviation events, the history, the technology, all the rest of it. He's quite right when he says about this being a monocoque construction. There is no frame in here. Contrast that, or think about that with race cars. The Indy cars had a separate frame with separate sheet metal over the outside of them, well up through the 50s until Lotus with Colin Chapman came over from England with the first monocoque race car. This is a monocoque design. The Ford Tri-Motor would have been the separate frame, and it's heavier and it's not as rigid and all that. But every race car today, whether it be Formula One or Indy cars or whatever, all uses this frame design. So sometimes we just have to look to see our future. We kind of have to look at the aviation community because they can show us a lot, and I will show you what I'm talking about. Chuck, go on back again down there to Bert Rutan's work. The DC-3 behind us, or C-47 if you please, didn't have a single piece of composite in it, and you are now looking at an aircraft that is all composite, like modern race cars. Pretty cool, so keep an eye on the aviation industry to see where our future might lie.
Bill's talked about Bert Rutan's aircraft design many times. He's probably Bill's favorite aircraft designer. Now let's move on to something quite different, quite important, and something for which Bill is quite proud.
We have a group here that is having way too much fun, and the reason I came to do this is because I want to take some credit for this. A few years ago we did a show on sport aviation. I believe it was at the Morris Airport, am I correct?
Was at Morris, yes it was.
It was at Morris, and you were one of the people we interviewed, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, your name is?
My name's Mark Weinsek.
Mark, we talked about your breakfast club.
That's
just
right.
Briefly, what is a breakfast club?
The Breakfast Club has been in existence since 1973. It's a group of pilots in and around the Chicago area that fly every morning on Sundays for breakfast, hence the name. And we depart every day on Sunday at 8 o'clock in the morning, and at the time we tune to 122.75.
What time?
At 8 o'clock on Sunday mornings.
And what's the call thing again?
It's called the Sunday Morning Breakfast.
No, the radio frequency.
Oh, it's 122.75.
122.75, and don't let me forget to mention that again towards the end, because everybody's getting their pencil and paper now. Now, the thing that I'm proud of is that the show aired, and you got a call from a fellow on the, or joined the, let me get to him. And you are?
I'm Steve McCabe.
Okay, Steve, I understand that you got the information from the show and contacted these people or got on the radio at 8 in the morning or whenever?
I certainly did. As a matter of fact, I watched the show on a Saturday. Sunday morning, the very next day, I was on the radio at 8 o'clock on 122.75, calling the group.
Well, and the interesting part about this, you're now the leader of the group.
Well, I don't know if I go that far. Mark is moving to Florida, and someone had, I drew the short end of the stick.
Don't miss a meeting because it'll happen every time. But are you enjoying the experience?
Pardon me?
Are you enjoying the experience?
Oh, it's a wonderful group of people. It's a wonderful hobby. We just have a lot of fun together.
Well, let me see if I understand this correctly then. What you guys do is at 8 o'clock Sunday morning, you all get on the same frequency, and at that point, you decide which airport you're going to go to, like maybe it'll be Schaumburg Regional Airport, and then you guys all have breakfast together. Is that the idea?
That's absolutely the right idea, but we have gone to a website now, and we now use the website to coordinate it because there's so many people going from such a wide area, all the way from Indiana up to Wisconsin. There's about 50 of us that'll converge at one time at an airport.
Unbelievable. That's great. Give us the website.
It's SMBC Flyers at googlepages.com.
Somebody's yelling, show them your coat.
Show them my coat.
Oh, here we go. Chucky, can you come in on this here? Tell me if that makes any sense at all. Are we close enough? Like I say, these guys are having way too much fun here today. This is a... how many? There's 50 of you? Good, we got it. There's
probably 45 to 50 of us here today.
Okay, now, and how many airplanes? Yeah, I got some.
Airplanes do we go?
Probably about 30.
Yeah.
About 30 airplanes?
30 planes.
What a great way to enjoy the camaraderie, something like the guys with the custom and hot rod cars do at the car shows and everything. It's almost more about hooking up with each other and swapping stories and all that, and I assume that's kind of, am I right?
You're absolutely right.
Wait a minute.
We've even had weddings.
What do you mean weddings?
Well, there's two of us that met through the Sunday Morning Breakfast Club, and we had a wedding, and they all came to our wedding over at Lewis Airport.
Oh, that is so cool. What a great...
Instead of dry around, we fly around.
Well, that is so cool.
And
these two met.
You two?
Yes.
You are?
I'm Carol McCabe.
And you guys met, what, in the breakfast
Met in the Breakfast Club and we're married.
What a
little
great
over a year ago.
Guys, look at I'm puffing my chest up. This is the results of Motorsports Unlimited. Now, you're the leader. I want you to give us, once again, those call letters for the radio and the website.
The 8 o'clock Sunday morning, 122.75. The website is SMBC Flyers at Google, not at, SMBCFlyers.googlepages.com.
Boy, I hope I can make that out. Do that one more time.
SMBCFlyers.googlepages.com.
Okay, I hope I can type that in so the people can see it. Anyhow, Chuck, back up your shot. Take a look at these folks. Here are folks that really know how to enjoy their airplanes. And all together now, I want you to call out the name of the group.
SMBC! That's the story that had Bill smiling for days. Now, we've mentioned a number of websites and radio frequencies. For those who didn't get their paper and pencils quick enough, we'll put them all on the screen later in the program. Get those pencils ready. Right now, though, we wanted to get back to the Model A's and talk to the club leadership responsible for organizing the fine antique car display.
Well, I told you that we had Model A's here today, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the relationship of the Model A's and all that with the event that's going on here today. But I wanted to give you a little idea of just how many Model A's they had, and I also want to point out that there are, I think, 3 Model T's here, and that all goes into part of what this celebration is all about. And as Chuck pulls his camera shot back as he comes over this way, it's all about the 80th anniversary of the Ford hangar behind us. And matter of fact, Chuck, keep on going. I want to see there's even more cars here. This has really been a wonderful turnout, and as I understand it, we have the president of the club right here, except he's way too young. You are?
My name's Tim Cunningham, and I am the president of the Joliet Model A Restorers Club.
And you are?
I'm Russell Knack, and I'm a member of the Joliet Model A Restorers Club.
Okay, but you're also an airplane guy, right?
Yes, my dad is a member of the local EAA chapter, and he has the plane, I have the car, so we're covering both avenues here.
So somehow you guys kind of put it together and thought it would be a nice?
Yes, I've been involved with this pancake breakfast for the EAA in the past, and I thought it'd be a great idea to bring the cars out and also to combine it with the 80th anniversary of the Ford hangar.
I think it's a great idea, and as a matter of fact, if it hadn't been for the cars being here today, we wouldn't have been here today, because I got lost down in Crete and found a woman driving her Model A all by herself, and I said, I bet she's going to Lansing Airport. I pulled up next to her, she says, yes, I'll follow you, I'm lost. So if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been able to find the place today. And it's actually very easy to find. From Chicago, help us, I don't know what I missed. From Chicago, how do you get down here to the Lansing Airport?
You can come straight south down Torrance if you live south of the city.
Well, let's say 294. I think most people would be familiar with that.
294, you would
get off at 394. I did that.
394, and you can take that, I believe, to Glenwood.
You see, it is hard.
Glenwood Dyer Road.
We did that.
And then you just take Stony Island, which is just about a block away. You take that north to Glenwood Lansing Road, take that east, and you'll see the airport.
Okay, I think that's where I got screwed up. I think I stayed on that Glenwood Dyer Road for a long time. In any event, tell us about your club a little bit. How many cars? How long have you been involved?
I myself have been involved for 8 years. The Joliet region of the Model A Restorers Club has about 65 to 70 families involved. With a number of cars, you're probably looking at about 150, I'd say. Most people have 1 or 2 Model A's. We meet out in Joliet on the first Wednesday of every month, and anyone's interested, they can check out our website. It's jolietmark.org, jolietmark.org.
jolietmark.org. And why Model A's? You're way too young. I don't get it at all.
Why do some guys prefer blondes and some guys prefer redheads?
Okay, but there's actually a story about it, because we interviewed the Model A Club at the J.C. Whitney Car Show's Model A Club. I believe it's out of Rockford or something. And I'm not sure. I don't want to say it wrong. But and they gave me a really good answer one time. They said because the Model A's of all the antique cars are very drivable. Yes. You can actually put miles on them and use them and all that.
Oh yeah. I myself have had my 1931 pickup for 3 years in restored condition, and this past weekend I rolled 4,000 miles on it. So
it's a usable antique car. As the antiques go, it's usable. Okay, anything you guys, matter of fact, think about it for a minute if you want to add something, because I want to talk to this fellow just for a minute. Sir, if you would. I told him not to move, and he walked away, and he moved all over the place. And what do you expect from a guy that's got a hat like this and a Model A? Tell us who you are.
My name is Leo Dilger. I'm from Chicago.
Okay, now you would be more the age that I would expect to be into Model A's, not this young kid over here that's the president of the club. How come he's the president?
Because he was voted in.
Oh, he missed the meeting.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell us about you. In fact, step over this way. I want the audience to see the red wheels and all that. Tell us about your car.
Well, it's 28. My wife bought it for my 75th birthday. We were both made in the same year. And I had the wheels powder coated last January, and I bought some new tires for it. And I just drive it all over the country.
Now, are you enjoying the event today?
I enjoy it to utmost.
What a nice combination of the antique cars with the aircraft and the 80th anniversary of the Ford hangar. I think that's such a nice connection.
It is, but you should have something on the hangar telling me it's a Ford hangar.
Oh, no, we did that already.
Oh, you already did that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I want to come over and talk to you guys for a little bit. Listen, thanks for spending a little time with us. Great car. Chuck, make sure the audience sees the car. Appreciate it. Thank you. And guys, anything you wanted to add before we conclude here? Because we've got airplanes to get to, including a great, you know the story, the follow-up story?
No, I don't.
A few years ago, we went into several of the hangars here at the home-built aircraft projects that were in various stages. And as I understand it, one of them is done now. That's a great follow-up story. You know how many people start car projects, many people start airplane projects, very few actually finish them. So I think it's a nice follow-up story that I want to follow up. And now, any of you guys want to add before we go?
No.
Okay, now he would be more the age I would expect to be into the Model A's, and a young guy like you, that sort of surprises me, and then I found out you missed the meeting and they made you president because you weren't there.
We're the youngest 2 members of our chapter, and I think the pair of us have single-handedly lowered the average age of our club several decades.
I'll tell you what, it's one of the things that I am most proud of about motorsports that I talk about all the time. It is absolutely a bridge between people. Gender doesn't make any difference. Age doesn't make any difference. Race doesn't make any difference. Guys that are into kind of Model A's can exchange stories about Model A's all day long. Guys that are into Camaros can exchange stories. I just think it's a wonderful social bridge. And I find I would like to kind of spread this around the world because maybe we'd all get along better with each other. If you know what I mean?
Model A folks are a great bunch of people. As you mentioned, all ages. Are welcome, and they're all very friendly. You know, it's just about enjoying the cars and driving them and having fun.
Yes, and if it wasn't for the Model A lady earlier in the program, Chuck and I probably wouldn't have found it today.
I was there that day and took a ride in one of the Model A's. It was very cool and really does take you back to another era. Next, Bill spotted a couple of gentlemen admiring the Model Ts in a way that showed they were intimately familiar. He wanted to get them on camera and figured out a way to do it. You'll see in a moment. These 2 guys are very special.
I just spotted a perfect opportunity to show a little bit of the evolution of the automobile and how it applies to the traditional American street rods that we spot all the time. Chuck, if you show the audience the car, this is the earlier era, the very first generation of traditional American, of what traditional American street rods are based on, in that this happens to be a T pickup. And it doesn't really make any difference what year it is. I believe they made the Ts from 1911 to 1927, and they all had the same body panels, the same basic configurations and all that. And what I find most identifiable is the carriage-like roof. This eventually became part, when you built a T Roadster or a T pickup, this became very important in the vehicle, but there are reasons that it's like this. Now, if you contrast the shot down here with the Model A, which is, this is Ford's next generation. It went from the Model Ts to the Model A's, and they are significantly different. They're technically interesting in a number of different ways. For example, Chuck, if you come in over here, I hope you can see that we've got brakes on the front of the Model A, but we did not have brakes on the front of the Model T. Can you see that? Can you show it to them, Chuck? Are we in a good position? Okay, bring your camera shot back again. Most important was, this is a time when Detroit was learning how to stamp big pieces of sheet metal. As you can see in the Model A, they had significant improvement. Now, they still couldn't stamp an entire roof section, so they had canvas roofs on these things. That didn't come until the next generation of being able to eliminate the canvas roofs. But as you can see, the panels for the radiators, the hood, the doors, and all that, and more importantly, the fenders, contrast that with the earlier generation where the fenders were quite flat, everything flat, the sides of the doors very flat and all that. And this contributed to, the reason cars change designs and styles is because we learn how to do it better. And that's what is contrasted here. From the Model T to the Model A, everything better. And as I understand it, we've got a T owner right down here, and you are?
Art Lemire.
And where are you from, Art?
Crete, Illinois.
Okay, and this one behind you, let's just step here just a little bit. This is yours? Yep. Tell us about it.
It's a 1915 touring car, Model T, of course. It's got a 20 horsepower, 4-cylinder engine, planetary transmission, meaning it's only got 2 speeds.
Okay, now if you would, I'd like you to step forward on this T, who I understand is one of your friends, and I want to talk to your son for a moment. And you are?
Jerry Lemire.
Jerry, as I understand it, you're his son?
Yes.
Okay, so then the answer is obvious how you happen to get into these cars, except he's probably good and mad at you for having an A instead of a T.
No, not at all, not at all. We get along, we're good.
And what do we have here for a car?
This is a 1929 two-door sedan. Model Ford.
Did you restore it?
Yes, I did.
You personally did the work?
No, with the help of my dad, yes. We both did it together.
The two of you guys did it together?
Yes.
Listen, it's great. Now, I don't want you to run away.
Okay.
Folks, we got a special treat over here right now that I want you to meet. In addition to having Model A's and Model T's, we've got a couple of guys over here that were already old when those cars came out. Your name?
John.
John what?
Teenstra.
And where are you from?
Homewood, Illinois.
And how old are you?
94.
94 years old, and I understand still driving?
Yes.
Absolutely unbelievable. And over here you are? Your name?
My name is Garrett Teenstra.
And where are you from?
Homewood.
And how old are you?
98.
So you guys remember these cars when they first came out brand new, no?
Oh, yeah, man. 1930, I bought my first Model A and made a trip all the way to Montana, back again, no problems.
What an adventure. What an adventure. No roads. What an adventure.
No roads, nothing. No hard surface roads west of the Mississippi River.
That's so cool. And you guys must be really enjoying this today.
Yes, very much, especially the Model Ts.
Because that's more from your era.
Because the Teenstra family took a 1,500-mile trip with 2 Model Ts from Homewood to Miami, Florida in 1920.
No roads?
Yes, sand roads.
Sand roads. What an
gravel roads.
How many people?
7.
Oh, that is so cool. And before I forget, you are?
I'm Jerry Teenstra. I'm Garrett's son from Homewood. And we're only 69, so we're the youngest one.
Well, I'll tell you what, these guys, I was watching them look over the cars. They're having a good time today.
Yes, they are. That's why we came out here to enjoy it and see all the things and reminisce.
Thank you so much for spending a little time with us. I got to get back to work over here. Thank you, gentlemen. This would have been representative of the next generation of traditional American street rods, which I call the square ones, probably best typified by the 32 Ford Coupe. But not just the 32 Ford Coupe, of course the Model A's, which preceded it, also were same part of that genre. And after the carriage-like street rods and then the square ones came the fat fender street rod, probably best characterized but not exclusive to the 40 Ford Coupe.
Bill couldn't resist the opportunity to show what the original cars look like from which we create traditional American street rods. This would be an example of a typical Model T street rod. Note the carriage-like look. This is an example of the Model A generation, or square ones. And finally, an example of the last genre of traditional American street rods, the fat fender cars. Now, let's get back to the aircraft with an inspirational story.
Well, folks, I am going to introduce you to my new hero. I have said so many times on Motorsports Unlimited that it is enormously difficult to build a car or a motorcycle or a snowmobile or a boat. And if you double that, that's how difficult it is to build an airplane. Because of that, I would say at least 50% of the car projects that get started, probably more, never get finished. Same thing goes for the motorcycle projects and the boat projects. Everybody hears the joke about the boat in the basement and the guy dies and it's still only half done and all the rest of it. The fact of the matter is all of these things are just enormously difficult to build. A few years ago, we had this fellow on the program in one of the hangars here at the Lansing airport, and he had his airplane halfway under construction. We did a little interview of what the plane was, and blah, 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 and all that sort of thing. And I left, and I never really thought that we'd hear any more about it. Well, guess what? He finished the airplane, and you are?
My name, John Shirley.
And where are you from, John?
Dyer, Indiana.
Tell us about your airplane.
Well, 12 years ago, I bought plans and built just about everything from scratch, with the exception of maybe the controls and the landing gear and the canopy. And 3 years ago, you and I talked about it, and I kept going, and here I am at age 76 with a finished airplane.
With an airplane, now this is kind of a funny part to me, an airplane that is finished now, except he doesn't have a pilot's license.
That's correct. I was a military pilot and never renewed a private license since then.
So you've got an instructor flying it that kind of shook it down and all that, and he loves the way it flies?
That's correct. It flies well.
And now you're going to go and get your license again, I assume?
I'll get instruction in about 20 hours and get a sport pilot license.
And how old are you now?
76.
You know, I can't tell you how encouraging that is. At 63 years old, it does bother me. You must feel some physical losses and all that as the age I certainly do, and it concerns me how long I can do the things that I love to do. But at 76, you can still do it.
Oh, I'm sure I can. I'm a very careful automobile driver, and I think I'll be the same in the airplane.
I think that is sensational, and I want to tell you, congratulations. This is no small task, a guy that actually completes an airplane project. Now, is there anything you want to tell the audience that you think is significant or important they should know either about your airplane or the effort it took to build it?
Oh, just if anybody listening would like to build one, just keep at it. It'll happen. It'll take shape.
Well, let me ask you an important question. Was it worth it?
I certainly think so.
You think so? So
sure.
You're having as much fun as you thought you would when you started 12
absolutely.
Years ago?
Building it was fun.
All right, Chuck, what I want you to do is I'm going to step out of the shot because I want you to frame him up with the propeller and a little piece of the engine because, as I said before, this is my new hero, actually completed one of these very difficult, complicated airplane projects, and at 76 years old is going to go and get his license.
What a great story of determination, talent, and ingenuity. He actually built his own aircraft, and it flies. Well, wow. Now we want to take a moment to talk about the Young Eagles program.
We've got to take a little time just to get this in real quickly. We mentioned the Young Eagles program before. In fact, we mentioned it several times on Motorsports Unlimited. And essentially what it boils down to is when the 260 of the EAA, it's Experimental Aircraft Association, has their pancake breakfast. And this fly-in, part of what they do is a Young Eagles program. And the Young Eagles program essentially is to give kids an opportunity to take a ride in an airplane. First of all, you are.
I'm Ted Sanders.
Ted, where are you from?
I live in South Chicago Heights, right about 5 miles away.
As I understand it, you're a big-time pilot, and that you fly. You're a pilot for a job, pilot for a school, and pilot. Help me.
Right. I'm a captain for Northeast Aviation, and I fly freight and light twins, and I am a flight instructor for Associated Air here on the airport, and I'm also vice president of chapter. And in another year, I'll start building my plane.
So you're also going to build one?
Yep.
Okay. You seem to. I've watched. There were several of you guys today flying the kids around. But boy, you seem to be the hardest working guy. It looks like you like this.
I love the kids and I love flying. When you see a young kid get a smile from here to here, you know, it's just amazing. Yeah. And we flew a million of them by the time we had the 100th anniversary, and for this national program, and we're continuing to fly them to introduce aviation to these kids and let them get an idea what it is.
Okay, well, it's an excellent program. Again, I encourage you. This event is once a year. They don't have a date for next year, but it's always about this time. We're talking about, what is this, beginning of June? Or?
Yeah, beginning of June, and we usually have one in September too. And whenever we have a breakfast, we have the Young Eagles. Okay. I also fly them sometimes during the time I have, you know, all the paperwork and stuff, and I'll fly them on my own at times.
Oh boy, I'll tell you something. What a wonderful program! A guy that cares, that wants to bring the youngsters into aviation is something that I fully support. Keep an eye on our website, msutv.com. When we know the dates, we'll post them. Then you can keep track of it. Wonderful. And by the way, the sun's out.
Let's see if we can take just a moment to look around before we have to go. And get those pencils ready. We're going to give you those websites. Rapidly running out, we wanted to take a moment to thank the leadership in Lansing for their efforts to recognize the historic value of the Ford hangar and the sense of whimsy to decorate the town with imaginative tri-motors.
Folks, I must tell you that this is our third or fourth time down here, and without a doubt this has been the best event that they've had. I'm not sure whether to call it the Experimental Aircraft Association 260 of the EAA Pancake Breakfast, or call it the 80th birthday of the Ford hangar, which is what you see behind it, but I'm not really sure it makes much difference because everybody here had a great time today. It's a unique, one-of-a-kind show that they have every year, and now we've got a new person here. We're going to talk to Bob and Patty in a minute, and you are?
Tony DeLaurentis from the village of Lansing.
And as a matter of fact, if it wasn't for you, these guys wouldn't know about us, right?
Right. 3 years ago, I contacted you because I seen a program you did where two brothers were building a Ford Cobra replica car. And I called you on the phone, and we sat and talked for about 25 minutes to figure out where you filmed it, because I said it looked so familiar, and it was in Crete. Right. And I had them build me a car, and I have the car yet today. And then I turned you on about the airport, about doing a program out here on the airport, and put you in contact with Bob Melkus.
Well, I'll tell you something. It has been a wonderful marriage, because I've said so many times on the show, we don't do nearly enough with sport aviation. It's a very important part of motorsport, and I was so delighted. One of the things we did today is a guy we interviewed 3 or 4 years ago that had his home-built airplane project about halfway finished. It's finished and flying now. What a story that is, you know? No, because car projects, probably less than half of them get done. Airplane projects, the same, you know, 99% of them don't get done. So when a guy actually gets it done, I take my hat off to him. I think that, now, is the Cobra fun?
Oh, it's a lot of fun. I broke the transmission twice already.
Okay, well, that's great.
But
now,
I fixed it good now. It's not going to break.
Now, what's your role with the village of...
I'm a trustee here in the village of Lansing.
You run the place?
Yeah, Patty and I do. She's a trustee also.
Okay, and now who had most to do with the fiberglass tri-motors?
Patty was the president.
That's your baby?
That's mine.
Now, are you an aviation person, or you just got it all from Bob when he started introducing you to airplanes and all that when you got on the board?
I started with Bob.
She's exceeded me now.
Say that?
She has exceeded me now. She's the expert in numerous facets of the Ford hangar, history of the Ford airport, and all kinds of other things.
Okay, now we have to say that one of the things I wanted to do on today's program is we wanted to get the Ford tri-motor on here.
Yep.
The Ford tri-motor apparently ran into weather somewhere.
That's what I heard. Some weather up in Minnesota. That's where he was coming from. They're pretty hard to find. There's only a couple of them east of the Mississippi, and this is one of them. Greg Herrig is the guy who owns it, and he said he'd do everything in his power to get here. Something must have went wrong.
Yeah, it must be a weather problem, because I know that there is weather around the country right now. Well, Chuck, I want you to pull your camera shot back. This is the 80th birthday of the Ford hangar. Originally one of 3, only one left?
Yep, the only one left.
The only one left, and kind of a significant piece of history for the folks here in Lansing, I think.
We try to keep it historically significant, the building, but still want to make it state-of-the-art safety-wise.
I will tell you something that pleases me, is it looks to me like we have sort of a marriage here of the aircraft enthusiasts and the village of Lansing, that you've got the fiberglass tri-motors and everything decorating the whole downtown area in conjunction with this celebration. Pretty cool. Whoever, and believe me, I know how this stuff works. If the guys in charge don't make it happen, it doesn't happen. Am I right?
That's right.
No, right?
Thank you, Bill. You're right. A lot of people involved.
Yeah, they always say that too, but trust me, if you don't have these two guys, you don't have an event, do you?
No.
Absolutely.
I've learned that a long time. At 21 years doing this, if you don't have the trustees on your side, you don't have anything.
Without a doubt, and it depends really on their creativity and originality and enthusiasm and vision and wisdom. Well, I think that personally, I think the folks in Lansing have a lot to be proud of here. This is a special place, special historical hangar, and also very active airport. Wonderful, wonderful thing. Anybody want to say anything before we go now?
Nope, just come back next year.
Absolutely. Do you have a date for next year?
Not just yet.
Okay, check our website. We'll keep it listed on our website. Patty?
Thanks for being here today, Bill. We really appreciate.
It was a pleasure. I have thoroughly enjoyed myself all day, and I want to thank you for putting us together with these guys in the first place. And apparently you're still the trustee.
Right. I want to thank you for coming out because I enjoy your program and your show all the time.
Well, thank you so much. And Chuck, pull your camera shot back. The people and the hangar, I'm going to step out of it. This is kind of a historically significant occasion for the folks in Lansing. 80th birthday of the Ford hangar.
That is so cool. The last remaining Ford hangar right here in Lansing, Illinois. As always, we're out of time too soon with only enough left to acknowledge the fine work of our award-winning production team, including Chuck Itzenthaler, Sue Casanta, our webmaster, Frank Barbalace, Rena Borwitz, and Tom McGrady. Special thanks to JBTV's Jerry Bryant. Music is created for us by independent artists Roger Pauley and Jerry Herbert. Of course, we have to take a moment to thank the stars of this edition of Motorsports Unlimited. Janine Lauschat, Patty Borwitz, and our host, Bill Wildt. Me, I'm Samantha Bentley, reminding you Chapter 260 of the EAA holds a pancake breakfast twice a year at the Lansing Airport. Come on out and enjoy aviation. Keep an eye on our website, msutv.com, for dates. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
This program made possible in part by support from Bridgestone Firestone and your local Bridgestone Firestone tire retailers.
This program made possible in part by support from Copy That, located in the County Farm Plaza at County Farm Road and Army Trail Road in Carroll Stream, Illinois. This program made possible in part by support from PB Food Products, located on 47th Street at Western Avenue in Chicago, Illinois.
Motorsports Unlimited is produced by Bill Wildt, president of the Motorsport Advancement Crusade.
This program made possible in part by support from J.C. Whitney & Company, located just off I-80 at the Utica exit in LaSalle, Illinois.
This program made possible in part by support from Jimmy's Red Hots, located on Grant Avenue and Pulaski Road in Chicago.
This program made possible in part by support from the Chicagoland Toys for Tots Motorcycle Parade, held on Western Avenue in Chicago, the first Sunday in December.
This program made possible in part by support from ABC Auto Parts, located on Ashland Avenue at 138th Street in Blue Island, Illinois.
Motorsports Unlimited was created to raise public consciousness, understanding, and appreciation of the motorsport community and their activities. You can contact us by email at msutv.com, or you can write to Motorsport, P.O. Box 66242, Chicago, Illinois, 60666. We enjoy hearing from our audience. Please let us know what you think.
On Motorsports Unlimited, we're taking you to Joliet, Illinois for the Big Joliet Show. That's right, folks, it's that time of year again, Father's Day weekend, and that means the Big Joliet Father's Day Car Show and Festival, featuring everything you're looking at and much, much more, including bands and fireworks. But let's not forget, it's also a great car show. Have a look next week on the 999th edition of Motorsports Unlimited.
So that's it, another edition of Motorsports Unlimited and the lovely ladies of motorsports. And be with us next week because we'll have something real exciting. Bill Wildt's going to have the lovely ladies, and just about anything can happen right here on Motorsports Unlimited. Every week at this time, we bring you the best in motorsports. So, be seeing ya. Bye-bye, and keep on rocking.